For the first time ever, there's less emphasis on looks than there is on, let's say, personality, that who you are actually matters more, came out higher than
Yeah.
looks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back motivational coach and life strategist, my good friend, and dating coach extraordinaire, Joni Caldwell Lerner. Joni, thanks for being here again.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for, now that you say that, the people that have come to me through your show, I adore. I'm having so much fun with them. I just have to tell you. But,
Uh, I'm so glad. I know our audience loves you, and that's that's why you're here. And I want you to put on that hat, the dating hat, again today for our conversation. We've done you and I have done a lot on dating, period, and on the channel we've done a lot about dating trends. It's always so interesting to learn more about what's going on, especially if you're on the sidelines and ready to jump back in. As you know, the dating sites, the Matches, the Hinges, the all the leaders in this industry, they do trend research and reports every year, and they just did a mid 2022, which I think has some really interesting things to say that I think our viewers might take note of, and that is that we've gone through so many changes in the last 2 years that have affected all parts of our life, including dating. So we're going to talk about some specific new trends, but I want to ask you first, is there anything else you want to say to our viewers before we start this conversation?
well, I'm really excited about this conversation. And just full disclosure, we actually did this segment, and the audio, the video, everything was, but we loved it so much we're redoing it. So hopefully it'll be just as good. So what I wanted to say before is for your viewers to, as they go through this segment, kind of pay attention to what are my priorities? Because we're going to talk about priorities. Are you clear about them? And are you honest with others? Are you honest with yourself? So kind of have that in the back of your mind as you listen to the two of us flap our lips.
Well, you just really got to the first trend that they said, because we've slowed down so much and we really had to think about things and how we're going to meet somebody else. A trend, and the words, always funny the words they come up with, but is dating. So that's the first trend, and it's that COVID, or this whole situation, really made us rethink what we want in life. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about dating. What does that
Right,
mean?
or a dating. We're always making up. Would that make it to the dictionary? We don't know.
Hmm.
I think, if I look back on who I was before 2020 and who I am now and who my clients showed up as before that time and who they are now, the trend that I'm seeing is there's a search for or a quest for safety. So the priority is security, really. And so people, I think, are, when they're, it's not so much about fluff and it's like, who can I spend time with? Because my time is precious. Who will enhance my life? And where can I enhance another person's life?
Yeah, all that I agree, and they made similar examples, but even just less shallow things on the priority list is, and this is really really refreshing to hear, is that there's less for the first time ever, there's less emphasis on looks than there is on, let's say, personality, that who you are actually matters more, came out higher than
Yeah.
looks.
Yeah. And of course, that's not going to be true for everyone, but I
Right.
completely concur, because the shallowness, the surface, the outside really is not nearly as important as being aligned with your own values, knowing what you want in life, and pursuing the next couple of decades, 2 or 3 decades that we have on this planet,
Yeah.
with purpose.
Yeah. So that's a really encouraging, I think, a really encouraging change, if you will. I mean, it was close. It was like, I don't know, 83 to 70 something. But it was there. It was the first time it topped it. And we've done lots of videos on that, how important is it to be, attractive right away and first spark and all this. And this kind of, well, it puts us to where you do really look at the person a bit more than maybe just the fluff. The next one, Joni, increased vulnerability and mindfulness. That says here that daters found themselves having deeper conversations and not so much time for small talk or what they called situationships. We did a video on that too.
Well, I love the word mindfulness. It doesn't have to be woo-woo. It can just mean self-reflective. It can mean being in the moment. So if I'm showing up with, a date, a brand new date, I'm going to be there in a different way. I'm going to be very mindful about the energy that I'm feeling from this person. And that's an invisible thing. And some of you may go, what are you talking about? But most people can feel energy. Sometimes you'll just dislike a person for no reason. Well, that's because you can feel their energy, whether you know it or not. So just being very mindful of, how do I feel sitting across from this person? Yeah. Do I feel connected? Do I feel safe? Do I feel seen?
No, I agree. Well, and to your point at the top of the show, you said, does this person, I think you just said again, make me feel safe? Safe was like a word that came up over and over again. And that makes sense. What we just went through. You want going forward, you want to have some sort of security or feeling of safety and spending time with someone. This is interesting. The virtual dates are here to stay, or they're staying strong. And this is something that people need to know. And for one reason, some people are really adverse. I don't want to do a Zoom call, or I don't want to do this. I don't want a virtual date, when that's all we could do, during the pandemic to a great extent. But now, if somebody actually, if you're approached that way, that, hey, let's jump on a virtual date first, expect that. It's not that, it shouldn't be off-putting. Talk to me about that.
You can be annoyed if you want, but, and, truly, some people have skill in texting. They're very clever and charming and funny. I tend to be a better texter than I am a FaceTimer. I'm better now because of you. I keep getting on the camera and I'm like, oh, whatever. But here's the thing. When you meet someone, whether it's a blind date or an online connection or what have you, there's an escalation of connection. So there's the first initial contact, then there's some texting back and forth, and maybe some emailing a little more in depth. But I really do recommend that you go, even though you're adverse to it or you don't like it, do the FaceTime, because you'll see their expressions, you'll see who they are, you'll get a better sense of them. And in each of these deeper levels, you have a chance to get to know them and or know, yeah, I'm just not connecting. I mean, you save yourself some time.
It's funny, and we talked about this on the first segment, and that yes, people are adverse to it, but I said that there was there's some easy tips that make it, not so difficult or not so intimidating, perhaps. And one of the tips I gave was to understand that you're looking, when you're talking with someone, or when you're on Zoom or on Skype or whatever it is you do, when you look at the camera like I am right now, that's when you're connecting with someone. That's when you're talking to someone. But what people, if you don't realize that, what people tend to do is look at the picture like I'm now, like I'm looking at your eyes right now, Joni. Yeah. And then you made such a great point, which was, no, you do want to look at that. Yeah. So, yeah, and I thought that was terrific, that as a producer, I think of it differently. But here's the reality.
That's one of the reasons I love our conversations, because sometimes you'll push back or I'll push back a little bit and we get some different perspectives because we're all so different, right? What I was saying was, yes, absolutely. You taught me this. I'm staring right at the camera right now because I want to connect with your viewers. And I do a lot of virtual coaching too, and I'll see somebody looking at. I guess my face is down there, I don't know. I don't say.
It's anything. All different. It's all different. That's
all different. Mm-hmm. But what I did when I first got on is I kept looking at my thumbnail, thinking, oh, my hair's sticking out over there, and oh, my lips are like, Lucy, and I mean, it was like, critiquing myself while this guy's trying to talk to me. I'm like,
Right.
So what you can do is take a little Post-it and just put it over your thumbnail so you can't see yourself. I'm doing that right now, by the way. I have a Post-it over my face because I don't want to talk to me. I see me every morning. So
That's funny. Yeah, no, and those are
yeah,
just, and the other two big tips for me, of course, is lighting. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that you have light in the background that just, just black you out basically,
it
or
makes
certainly,
like
go
you're going to
ahead.
be on one of those crime shows
Yes.
and they've changed your voice.
Or sitting behind a really bright window, and that just not flattering. And the other thing, and I see
Yeah.
this on the news all the time. I mean, this whole virtual stuff on the news. These are now acceptable interviews. That wasn't like that before the
Yeah.
pandemic. This is
I
all
just,
recent. But people look down, or they have the camera right here, and it's just the most awful
yeah.
angles. And those are
Yeah.
just
Well,
some really really easy fixes to that
you
that
don't
don't
want to have
change
it
who you
under.
are.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on what you were saying, but you don't want to have it under your chin,
No.
It's like, so, so a little higher and
Right.
angled just a tiny bit down is a more flattering
Right.
view. On the other hand, who cares? It's
So,
really about soul to soul, person to person. Who's this person? And probably we're the only ones who care about the chin or the angle.
I tell you what.
Right.
Here's why this is so funny. I thought so. Paul, we had met in person, but then I was moving back from Texas, so we did some Zoom stuff, and our very first Skype or Zoom or whatever it was such an unflattering light and angle that had that been the first time we met, I don't know. Now I'm acting like I'm really shallow, but
You
it's
just
the
said don't be shallow.
yeah, I know. But the impression can be, there's just simple things you can do to make it better. And
Yeah.
that's why I maybe harp on this a little bit more than I should, because this is my business. So we did do an entire video on it. I'll link to that,
Yeah.
if people want to see any further.
And one more thing that we did talk about was that, like, I spruce up for your segments. I do everything I possibly can to spruce up. Now I'm going to walk away and take the hairpiece off and take the mask. Full disclosure. And by the way, I'm going to change my hair back to blonde eventually. But don't go crazy. When you're
Yeah.
doing your Zoom call, look attractive.
Hmm.
For guys, maybe, spruce up the beard a little bit if you have one, or you don't wear a baseball cap so she can see your eyes. And
Yeah.
for ladies, you just, look presentable,
Hmm.
but you want to look like you
Yeah.
when you actually meet as
Yeah.
well.
Exactly.
Not that I don't look like this all the time.
You're so funny. I love you, Joni.
I love you too.
And I loved you as a blonde too, so we'll look forward to that. The last one here that I want to bring up, the fourth one, I thought this is even deeper. It's that sober curious is on the rise. Now, I have not heard about that. And as I said in the first segment, this is really up your alley, not because you're drunk.
But I am. No.
But because you worked also, you counsel in this field as well. And I thought that was really, really super interesting that people think twice about whether or not they're going to have a drink on a date or they want to remain sober. And for me, that was a big part of it. I actually wanted to go to happy hour for a glass of wine. I didn't want to have lunch with a cup of coffee. So I don't know what that says about me. I don't know what it says about the trend, but I think it's certainly worth mentioning.
Yeah. Well, this is such an important topic. Maybe we
Yeah.
can take just a couple minutes
Sure.
to break it down a little bit. Okay, good. So what it says about you is that you're a moderate drinker and you enjoy your wine. Good for you. Okay. In COVID, and I work with an intervention company, and I have a lot of knowledge in this area. I don't drink, haven't had a drink since I was 23 years old. Lots of hereditary stuff. I'm not lovely in my cups, and I know that about myself. So I don't drink, and it also has really informed some of my experience in terms of coaching. And what happened in 2020 is some sober people lost it, and then some people who were just moderate drinkers like you turned into heavy drinkers. Now, heavy drinkers are what's called it's a situational thing.
Mm-hmm.
Say your mother dies, you start drinking a lot. COVID comes, you start drinking a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, apparently, people must have seen that more and more and more. Even the alcohol industry is adapting to this. There are, as I read, there's a lot of mocktails, alcohol-free beer, alcohol-free wine, which incidentally sucks. I
Never
heard
got that.
I heard the beer is supposed to be fantastic. There's some really good ones, but wine, not so much. But there apparently it is a big trend, and one, you shouldn't be expected to have a drink. I think maybe we're past that anyway. But if you were even like me, well, yeah, I want to have a drink and loosen up a little bit. Well, do I really need this? I think you're going to see that apparently to this report more and more often.
So yeah, people are more conscious about the health aspects, and is drinking a lot is self-medicating. So if that's happening, is this person okay? What's going on? So it's just some more information. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I went to a wine tasting with an offsite for a corporation, $400 a bottle. And people loved that I didn't drink because I got to drink my wine. So you can socialize and not drink, or, whatever. No judgment.
Yeah. Well, Joni, we're coming to the end of the segment. This is a lot to think about. I guess one of the really great takeaways is that maybe, the last 2 years have really improved dating and how we meet others, what we're looking for. We've slowed down, and all that's good, especially if you're out there looking for someone. What would you like to leave with our viewers before we close?
This is really what I want to leave with you. I read a book called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, and on page 188 is a whole list of values. And she says, pick out your values. I know it's going to be 25 or 30 values. Then go back and pick 2. I'm like, so I picked my 2. And what I would say is I would encourage people to figure out what their values are. They don't need the book. What are your values? Mine are courage and unconditional love. Yeah. So when I coach, it's with courage and unconditional love. When I date, it's with courage and unconditional love. When I decide to buy a house, it's courage and unconditional love. If I'm aligned with my 2 most important values, everything else is umbrellaed under, right? Then I know that I'm on the right track. Do it with your dating as well. What are your values? Stay aligned within yourself, and you'll know you're going in the right direction. Bam.
Yeah. Bam. Bam.
Bam.
Joni, thank you so much. We'll link to all of your information as usual. So if you're out there dating, do give Joni a call. She's great to work with. And Joni, I want to hold you over for another segment. So we'll see you again soon on Second Act TV.
See you soon.
If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.